Okay, welcome back. This video is about the completion guide, that, meaning everything you need to build the airplane, everything that goes in the airplane. Not about what's you carry to the field, it's what's in or on the airplane. So first you got the airplane, it's the Avistar Elite. When I bought this one, it was about $140 at Tower Hobbies. So $140 for an airplane, and I went with the more expensive OS engine. It's the OS engine 55AX. That's a $170 engine. You can certainly get cheaper engines. If you want a really good engine that's inexpensive, I recommend the Evolution Alpha. It's a 46 size engine. I've got 3 airplanes with it on it, and it works very well. But I wanted a little bit more power. I wanted to try the OS55. I already have an OS55 on one airplane. Wanted to try another one. Figured this would be a good time to try it. But so you can get an engine anywhere from, I'll say, $90 to $170, and it's your choice. And the last thing you need is, I'll say the last thing, the next thing you need is a prop. So I'm going to use the 12.5 prop, and I always buy 2 of them. So always have a spare. You never know when you're going to ding one up, and you want to keep flying. So I keep a spare. I also might use a 12.6. I've got a 12.6 in my spare parts stuff, and I could use a 12.6, but I'm going to start with a 12.5, probably stick with it. We'll see. It's going to be a good size engine for it. 12.5 should work fine. So the combination of the airplane, the engine that I chose, and the one prop, not 2, but one prop, is about $14. So that's the first part. Stay tuned for the next part, which will be all the electronics. Okay, the next part of the completion guide for the Avistar Elite aircraft parts that you got to put in the airplane is the servos. I like all the electronics, but I'm going to start with the servos. Now, I'm going to use a more expensive servo. I'm going to use the HS 485 HB. It's a heavy-duty ball bearing carbonite gear servo. It's let's see, it's $17 a piece. It's a little more expensive, but I think worth it for this airplane. So I'm going to put it in. Now, if you want to save yourself some money, 7 of those are going to cost me $119. If you want to use a cheaper servo, the HS 311 servo is what I put in the Nexstar. They're working fine, but I just want a little better servo for this aircraft. Not that I'm going to abuse it at all, but I just wanted a little better servo for it. So these are $8 a piece, so that'd be $56 versus $119. You make the math, you decide, it's your airplane. But I'm going to do with the more expensive servos. Next, because I use a Spectrum radio, I always recommend I recommend a radio that has, recommend a receiver that has a satellite antenna. And this is the AR7610. I could just as easily use the AR6210. The 6210 is about $70. This is about, let me see here. This one is $90. Yeah, $90. The $70 one, 6-channel, I'm only going to use 6 channels here because I'm going to have the flaps and the ailerons on Y connectors. And so, but the I have this, didn't have another plan for it right now, so I'm going to use it, and instead of buying another 6210. So I'm going to use the AR7610 for the receiver. In every airplane I build now, I put a telemetry module. It's the cheapest insurance you're going to find for $56 plus the cost of a sensor. The sensor is $16, $17 around there. And so that's going to tell me the voltage on the battery and the receiver. And that's the #1 cause for losing an airplane is the battery dropped out. I think one of my students had an airplane that just suddenly fell out of the sky because I think it was the battery. It was either the battery or a faulty receiver, and receivers don't go faulty quite as often as 1 in 10 likelihood versus a battery. So TM1000 module, you'll see how to put that in a future video, how to bind it in and so forth. So you need both the TM1000 module and the sensor. Now this comes with a sensor that you can wire yourself. I don't need to spend my time wiring, especially these JR connectors. So a little bit of soldering, a little bit of wiring. For $16, I'll buy it. Next, you're going to need a couple of Y harnesses. These are good heavy-duty Y harness. They're by JR and Spectrum, Horizon Hobby. And so I got 2 of those, one for the flaps and one for the ailerons. Those Y harnesses are about $14 each. I use a Spectrum switch, standard heavy-duty switch, works very well. The switch harness is about $14, and so you always got to have a switch to turn it on and off. I'm going to use 12-inch leads from the aileron servos into the cabin, and so I got 2 of those, one for each aileron. I measured the length of the servo wire from the location where it's going to sit in the wing into the cabin, and I think that wire is going to be long enough. And what you need then is, if that wire is long enough, then it will reach the Y harness. And so I'm going to try that. If it doesn't, I have some 6-inch servo extensions standing by. These are Spectrum heavy-duty 6-inch servo extensions, just in case it's not quite long enough to suit my needs. So I don't include this, but I always keep some in my spare parts, just in case. And then last, you need a good battery. I like the Hydromax by Hobbyco. Always use a 5-cell battery. 4 cells aren't enough these days, especially with 7 servos. You don't want to use a 4-cell battery. So I'm going to use this 5-cell nickel metal hydride battery to power everything. Had a lot of good, reliable use out of that brand of batteries. So that's the electronics. I'll be back in just a second to show you everything else that I'm going to put in. Okay, I'm back, and by the way, all the electronic parts that I'm going to use cost me $345. It's okay. It's good electronics. The next part I'm going to show you is everything else that I'm going to use. Most of this you don't need because it came with the airplane. Something came with the airplane to make it work. For example, I'm going to use an aluminum spinner. This is the True Turn. This is the 2 3/4. You can use a 2 1/2 or 2 3/4 for 2 blades. And you always have to have, for this engine I'm using, the OS55, the adapter kit for that, which is the 1/4 by 28 adapter. And the plastic one is okay. You'll find out after a while, lots of starts, it gets scored and scarred where it's being started. Then it becomes hard to start. Then you replace it with one of these. I'm going to start with one. And as I said before, I need some nice big old wheels here. So I've got a 3-inch wheel for the nose, 3.5-inch wheel for the main gears, and that'll keep the relative size the same. They are by Dave Brown, so 1.3, 1.3.5 light flight wheels, Dave Brown products. And if you're flying off a regular asphalt runway somewhere, or dirt, or off a hard dirt, you can get by with the smaller wheels. I'm flying off a thick carpet of grass, and I got to use it. I don't have to, but I'm gonna. I've had my fill of small wheels these days. Another thing you don't need, but I'm going to use, is because it has a 3-line tank, I don't need the clunk, and I don't need the little tubing in here, but I want the ability to use this stopper and this stopper holder to mount the green fill line into the side of the fuselage underneath the, so it comes out the side underneath the engine. So, okay, this is $5, $4.99. Okay, convenience. Gonna pay a little for convenience. Exhaust deflector, don't have to have one. I like to have one, keeps the airplane a little bit cleaner. The push rod connectors, these are the same. There's 2 of these push rod connectors in the kit, and the other things you connect in are those little plastic things I showed you. Don't want to use those. I'm going to use these push rod connectors for all connections inside the cabin. And obviously on the outside for the push rods, I'm using metal clevises. And by the way, behind every metal clevis, there's a 256 nut. I can use thread lock to lock that down, so the metal clevis and this won't move. Use a OS recommends putting a fuel filter on. I like this fuel filter because I can see it. I can see if anything's going through it. I can see if it's clogged up, and so I use this fuel filter. And you'll see in a future video how I do that. Last thing you don't need, but I'm going to put, is this is the same motor mount that came with the Nexstar. Okay, in fact, you can buy this kit, which is a Nexstar spare part, of just the motor mount. But what's in here is this little metal, there it is, the little metal bar right there. There's 2 of them, as you see. Those 2 metal bars are the alternative method when you don't use these little white plastic things to mount the engine. Well, seeing the one at the field that another pilot bought, he used the white plastic, and he had to bend the push rod for the throttle up and over it, and then back down again to get to the right hole on the throttle arm. I'm going, okay, I'll eliminate the white plastic, and this whole kit is $2 and let me see, where was it? $2.19. So for $2.19, I'm going to have a straight through push rod that connects to the bottom hole of the throttle arm, and that way the throttle push rod operates straight and true. I like it a lot better for $2.19. And so, and then you gotta have, if you don't have any, get some. You may need some lead weights. I don't know yet. You know, you might not need but 3 or 4 of these. They're, you know, if you buy them individually, they're 12 cents a piece. Buy a pack of 24, and you'll use them up eventually. You also need to have some nice foam to wrap all your electronics in. So I use the 1/4-inch foam. I guess I ought to show it this way, shouldn't I? Let's see. Yeah, Dubro 1/4-inch foam, and a sheet of that is not very expensive. Dubro foam is only $2.10. So all told, all this extra stuff here, the most expensive thing being the $28 spinner. All told, this is $78. Well worth it. This is going to be a real nice airplane. So I'm looking forward to building it. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to the next video.